Yeah, alright. I'm Jack. Normally I'm peeling the skins off of dead rats and that, but now once a week I get to come on here and talk at yous about what I assume is gonna be utter shite. Have you ever heard of the Pusher? Apparently it's the serial killer that gets about around Manchester city centre who pushes fellas into the canal. So, the Pusher has apparently killed in excess of 85 people by shoving them into the canal. I think it's worth remembering that it's pretty easy to fall into the canal in parts of Manchester because most of the time there ain't even a fence. I'd even argue there's a possibility that the people who give out licenses for premises to sell alcoholic drinks are to blame. Why would you agree to allow a pub or a bar to be situated next to a canal that don't even have a barrier in front of it? I always got told not to go into the canals anyway because of these strong undercurrents that are knocking about in there. But thinking back, it's just probably because me and my dad can't swim. But anyway, what if the Pusher is just an exercise in manipulation? If they can convince the people of Manchester that the Pusher exists, then maybe they can sell fences and labour to the council. Perhaps the inventor of the Pusher is involved in the fencing business, or he's just trying to secure new contracts or ties with the city council. Perhaps it goes deeper than that though. What if it's an external influence? Perhaps maybe, someone from London who's organised the Pusher in the same way that the idea of Jack the Ripper was probably a group of people, or at least organised by a group of rich people that didn't like the idea of working class women becoming powerful enough through prostitution. Their power would come from money, yes, but we know for a fact that rich people like a bit of rough and they're willing to pay for it too, so it probably was the same back then, isn't it? Like, what, 100 years ago or something? Think Hugh Grant in the 90s, not obviously not for 100 years ago. Hugh Grant's not that old, but in the 90s, he got caught with that sex worker. He might not have been rich then, but he did seem posh. Now, if you get loads of prostitutes to die, that means a lot of people will be scared away from becoming prostitutes and they're going to be less likely to do it, which means there's a more of a control on the wealth. Because I imagine when you're a prostitute, you're not exactly paying tax, are you? So that no one's skimming off of you other than maybe a pimp. And did pimps knock about back then? Was there a pimp? Seeing as prostitution has a huge markup, you've got very little in the way of overheads apart from maybe a little bit of opium back in the day to help ease in your sixth client of the evening. This isn't good as other businessmen would get jealous seeing how women could make money with very little finances to begin with. But think of the blackmailing opportunities, mate, that these women in Whitechapel may have had and all. Getting carried away, we'll get back to the Pusher. What if it's Londoners again that are in control of this new serial killer? We know very little about them, just as we knew very little about Jack the Ripper, except maybe he was perhaps a member of the royal family, allegedly. So, what if the royals are responsible for the Pusher? Or maybe a modern day master manipulator or magician could be pulling the strings. Maybe it's not a landscaper that is to blame, but instead it's a sort of underground invisible war being fought to close off supply routes into the big city. Perhaps all these people are being killed so that the council is forced to fill the canals in to prevent people from drowning in them. But the true reason is to stop canal boat holidays and the occasional freight ship from entering the city. Maybe the administrative costs of issuing fishing licenses outweigh the money made from selling these licenses. So they want to eradicate the waters of Greater Manchester in order to attack the fishermen and eventually redirect the staff that are in control of fishing licenses, and putting them into the administrative duties, the people with the administrative duties of, I imagine, filing away fishing licenses. It might just simply be that there is some nutter lurking down the ginnels who wants nothing more than to push people into water. But why give him such a shit nickname? When you drop something in water, right, it makes those rings emit from the centre in it, that initial point of contact with the water. Why didn't the newspaper go with the name The Rippler? They could have used the Riddler's question mark from Batman because they don't know who he is, so it kind of makes sense. And just add a few rings around the dot of the question mark. It's already recognisable. You could imagine some mentalist selling it on the fucking t-shirts in Manchester and that. They probably get the fucking head kicked in. Fucking people have died. But just as an idea, anyway, it'd be interesting to know when these pushes occur, though. I'd imagine it's on a Saturday night or maybe a Friday night, early Saturday morning. I'm guessing the people are reported missing a few days later, maybe, to give them chance. Maybe they're just having a fucking stop out weekend on the sesh, or they found themselves a fella or a woman, or, whatever they're into. Reminded myself of something before. I made a little note to myself. Just a quick point. Ain't it weird that rich people will fuck poor kids and poor young people will fuck rich older people? I've only been thinking about this because I keep getting messages off of people calling themselves sugar daddies, saying they want me to be their sugar baby. Fucking hanging me. But it don't bother me too much because it's like I've now graduated from one group on social media to the next level of social media. Thing is, though, they all think I'm a bird, which is pretty, annoying. I very rarely receive flattering messages like that, and when I do, it's now fucking copied and pasted and sent out to loads of people. It's not very personal, innit? Fucking no wonder people keep robbing the money off them after the first payment. But if anyone wants to be put in touch with these dirty old men, then they want to earn a couple of quid, then give us a shout. Send me a message on Instagram. That's at World Around You. That's EWE like the sheep. And I'll put you in touch with them. I'd like a 10% finder's fee, and I'm not moving on that. I think that's fucking very fair. That is more than reasonable as a request for me helping you get free money for sending probably just a picture of your bumhole or your elbow if you're fucking clever enough, or your feet or something. So, speaking of requests, I thought I'd answer some of the questions I've received this week. So, as what I do is a taxidermy. I don't want to bring this up all the time, innit? But I do. I make stuff out of dead rats and that, and rabbits, and like pencil cases, toasters, fucking weird shit. I guess it's definitely fucking weird. And I get sent mad questions sometimes. Sometimes I get sent questions that are annoying, but sometimes I get sent weird questions. So here's some of the weirder ones from this week that just came seemingly out of nowhere. I might try and bring these in every week if I get some, but if I get any decent ones, aren't just the same. So, question 1. Would you rather be burnt or buried? And that comes from someone on Reddit. So, I think I'd rather be burnt, really. I was brought up Catholic, and that idea of being resurrected as a zombie to fight in Jesus' holy war doesn't really appeal to me. It don't really sit well. Why would I want to fight a war against demons for a guy that fucking lived supposedly maybe 2,000 years ago, maybe 800 years ago, depends on who you believe, if it even existed at all. But I wouldn't want to fight in his holy war. I think everyone should be burnt after they've been killed. It's fucking way more hygienic. It saves space, and you can make it quite nice, man. When I was in Japan, what they tend to do, I noticed they tend to burn people, obviously after they've died, and they shove you in a little pot and then bang you in these ceremonial cupboards. I got a tour of this. It's like, I don't know, like the equivalent of a church. I can't remember what sort of holy place it was, but I know it was a place of worship, and they had these cupboards on one floor, and they were full of the remains of people that had passed. So I think that's the best way to go, mate. Be burnt. It's better for everything and everyone. Plus, funerals seem like a bit of a scam anyway, mate. Why are you paying like $4,000 for someone to dig a hole and to throw a body into it? The body's dead. I don't think you should have to pay for that anyway. Plus, you've got the fucking digging a hole. If you were going to get a pot, just tell someone you're getting a pond, mate. You could just get a landscaper to come and do it, but you would never pay $4,000 for a fucking pond that's 6 foot deep and 6 foot long and 3 foot wide. Never. It'd be a few £100 at most, because you're just going into it with a digger, aren't you? Question 2. Good one, this. Bit weird. Do you believe bad energy follows anything dead? Quite an easy one, really, for me. No. I don't really understand this sort of thing. I don't get how this could happen. Everything dies. Everything. Imagine a blood cell, innit? It's dead after 28 days, give or take. So is cholesterol a bad energy stored inside your body? And that's why we supposedly become new people every 7 years, because everything fucking regenerates inside of us, only worse because it loses part of the fucking genetic material from, is it the chromosomes that look like the shape of an elongated X? Is that why acupuncture works, mate? It makes tiny little holes for a bad juju to escape into the needles. Are the Chinese storing this bad energy, though? What are they doing with it? We can't pour old fat and grease down the plug holes in England or Plymouth, wherever in Manchester, Plymouth, Liverpool, Birmingham. Nowhere in England is it a good idea to pour old fat and grease. So what are they doing with this bad energy? This causes fatbergs if we empty our fucking frying pans down the sink. So you see them all the time on the telly, like on Channel 5 and that. So where are they dumping all of this negative energy? Like, is that what Wish is? Like Wish.com? Is that what Wish.com is? They release all this negative or bad energy from people's bloodstreams into the water supply and general ether. So to counter that, they just provide absolute bargains through an app with a reasonable delivery charge. Fucking, come on, man. What are you on about bad energy? It don't make any sense. Question 3. I get this one quite a lot, so I thought I'd throw it in. Do you believe in God? No. Again, no. Not in the sense of the omnipotent, omniscient, whatever being that created us purely to feed his own ego. I think the idea of the Anunnaki is what I believe in the most, or something along the lines of the Anunnaki. And if you don't know what the Anunnaki are, they're supposedly a race of aliens. They supposedly created us by mixing our DNA with, depends where you go, but apes or the original inhabitants of Mars, which they also supposedly created, according to some. Question 4. What are your thoughts on vegans and animal rights activists? Now, this is another one that I get quite a lot, so I thought this would be a nice opportunity while I'm not sure where the show's actually going to get me thinking, you know, as I'm sat here talking to you. So they're just vegans, animal rights activists. They're just people, innit? And they're just people. Like, there's going to be dickheads in every group of people. The ones that send me death threats and that and try to get me cat taken off me, or that woman that keeps trying to get me blacklisted from a specific brand of pet shop in the UK. They're knobheads, mate. Proper fucking jebends, mate. But I do have thoughts on both, like as separate entities, if you like, as separate groups. So vegans have just taken that old Bill Hicks bit a bit about being a stoner is just deciding to live life on hard mode. They've just got that, mate, and fucking took it a step further. So let's quickly imagine life as like a platforming video game, like, or an adventure game or an action game like Spider-Man 2 on PS2. I'm sure we've all played that, or at least, you know, we know that's probably one of the greatest games ever made. But easy mode would be like being at school. Obviously, as a fucking school-age child, being at school as an adult who's not a teacher or a cleaner or a cook is immediately making your playthrough of life super fucking hard. But anyway, being at school as a child with a happy home and a stable life, you know, with good family and that's easy, mate. That's easy mode of life. Then if you want normal mode, I guess, is how games are supposed to be played. So that'd be something like staying in your hometown after school and working with your parents in their shop or their business. Hard mode would be moving from your hometown and developing yourself a rather intense drinking or drug habit and still trying to function in the real world, you know, like a 9-to-5 job, but you're always constantly off your face and missing home. That's hard, isn't it? But becoming a vegan is life on like survivalist difficulty from like fucking Fallout 4 or something, mate. Like, you've looked at life. It's like you're on your third playthrough of the game of your life and you've thought, you know what? Fucking, I need a challenge. Fuck eating cows. Fucking bollocks to cereal. I'm only going to wear elasticated trousers from now on, no more belts, and wearing my Crocs. These work boots are fucking far too practical. How else can I make life as difficult as possible for myself and everyone else around me? Now, I've often been worried about vegans, and I'll come back to it in a minute when I've finished off the animal rights activists, but truth be told, I've got nothing against animal rights activists. They protect animals from cunts who want to hurt them, so that's fucking brilliant, mate. You know, I'm glad there's people out there that do that. Like, I saw a guy kick a pigeon in town the other day, and I went, fucking out of order, mate. What are you doing there? Now, obviously, I didn't fucking hit him or, like, show him some placard, because I don't get about doing that. Why would I go about hitting someone who's kicked a pigeon? I think he was just at work, and the seagull, had been fucking irritating him, but I still thought he was a dickhead. I'm fully on the animal rights side of that sort of thing. Like, I don't agree with horse slashing or cow tipping, so I get where they're coming from, but what I do have a problem with is that activists seem to have a certain mindset, like all of them do, innit? All I see it doing, being an activist in general for anything, it's just dividing people further. For example, I'm here to talk about the plight of the bottlenose dolphin. Well, I'm here to save the killer whales from extinction. And then immediately you've got a fucking issue. They both want to save a fucking an ocean-dwelling mammal, but one of them only wants to save the bottlenose dolphin, and the other one only wants to save the orcas. So, like, what do you do there? I understand that people care about stuff, and to a degree, you can't really help what you obsess over, but I can't help but think if people just went, I care, or I care, or even just in a normal voice, like, I care. I'm not trying to say animal rights activists are dumb, innit? I just can't do that many voices that sound too different to my own. They may not even sound that different to my own. They probably just sound like fucking Mancunians with speech impediments, but I don't understand. If the people just said, I care, and then did it there, rather than I care about, put whatever you want after that, it doesn't really matter, the point still stands, then more problems would actually get solved, innit? You know, just fucking kill all the fish and whales, mate. Just fucking kill them all. Because did you know in 1986, commercial whaling, as it was known, that's like, you know, fucking killing whales for profit, was outlawed all around the world. Did you also know that since the mid-80s, sea levels have risen? Perhaps if we were to continue killing the whales and dolphins and removing them from the water levels would decrease, as the massive mammals that are displacing the water and causing people who live in coastal properties to lose garden space on a daily basis because of erosion. they'd be gone, mate. So the so-called natural erosion would probably slow down too, because there'd be less things moving around in the sea, meaning less waves, which would also mean there'd be less surface. So that would mean there's less people driving vans to coastal towns. Vans aren't very good for the environment. You, Loads of things get saved here, mate. And imagine all them people that travel around the world to spread the word about saving dolphins and that, mate. It's just bonkers. All that sort of stuff don't make sense to me, really. But the animal rights activists don't think about that, because all they care about is their specific cause. Now, some people care about the environment as a whole, and that encompasses everything, and fucking good on you if that's what you want to put your life towards, innit? But I'd argue that animal rights activists, specifically the ones who want to save the whales and sea life, are directly opposed to the suicide awareness people. By filling the seas and oceans with all these fucking animals, and the coasts are going to get eroded, as I said, which means that people are down, people that are depressed or down. And I don't want to make fun of people that are suicidal. No, that's not my intention. I'm not trying to make fun of anyone here with any of this, but it's just what I think, and it's my answer to the question. It's my thoughts. So the ones that are down and they want to go and top themselves, for want of a nicer phrase, the people that are looking to end their lives because they've reached the fucking point where nothing else matters. That I'd argue that the animal rights activists don't care about them, because if they did, then surely they'd want to get rid of the sea, everything in the sea, because that's eroding the cliffs. And if you keep eroding the cliffs, it might only take a suicidal person that extra step to go, you know what? No, I do love her, or I do love him, or oh fucking, I'm just gonna go and see me nan. She'll sort me out. But by having all these whales and dolphins knocking about me, eroding the coastlines, they're these people who are really sad and down in life, their walks getting shorter and shorter and shorter, meaning that they've got less time to talk themselves round and out of it, mate. So it could be argued that animal rights activists are actually partly, I suppose, in this sort of logic, responsible for suicide rates if they were to increase. I have no idea what the statistics are, but again, just sort of spitballing here. I imagine how much land there'd be as well if whales and that weren't still frolicking around, destroying our environment. Why aren't we protecting our environment, mate? We need the rocks and the land and that. We're not like aquatic apes. Speaking of aquatic apes, that's probably another thing that we'll cover another episode, perhaps. Back to the vegans for a moment. I don't worry about them as such as people, but I do worry for them as a group. Something I worry about is their potential for exploitation. Did you know, for example, that there is a company, a corporation in America that produces genetically modified seeds? And if these seeds manage to spread into another farmer's field who hasn't purchased the rights to use those seeds, this company has the right, apparently, to lay claim to all of the crops in that farmer's field, meaning that farmer loses profits on that grow. Now, just imagine a way to make more farmers want to grow crops. A big push for veganism. Advertise it, celebrate it, dangle it under people's noses. I kind of see becoming vegan as a way for people to pretend that they've developed a personality. It probably explains why a lot of attractive people become vegan and all, because there are some fucking stunners who are vegan, They're not all like, well, most of them, I would probably argue, a lot of vegans are quite attractive, because obviously they're looking after their body, they're being careful about what goes into it. They probably exercise if they care that much about their bodies. They're looking after themselves, they're attractive, they're good to look at, aesthetically pleasing people. But what if they've become a vegan so that they've got a bit of a personality, some bit of rules for life, and that's something to talk about? Because if you've always been attractive, then surely you're not much cop at talking to people, because people have always just wanted to talk to you anyway. So they've never had to try with people. Anyway, you increase demand for a certain produce and more farmers will grow it, meaning the potential for that seed to then spread and contaminate other farmers' fields, meaning this corporation can confiscate the produce of more farmers, essentially crippling them financially, and meaning they'll be more likely to sell their land off, or it means they'll be more inclined to work with these seed developers in the future. Vegans seem like a tool being used without them even knowing, all under the guise of bettering the earth. Unless through veganism truly you can take that step forward, and vegans are actually on their third playthrough of life and they've realised it, so they're becoming more spiritually evolved than the rest of us, so that they can pass on to the next level or world, whatever that may be. But if I keep rambling on about them, though, they're just gonna fucking mither me more. So let's leave them there, shall we? Like we've mentioned seas there, and I was wondering if any of you have ever wondered if the moon is in fact like Noah's Ark, and it's just a giant seed bank, well, a DNA storage facility. Might seem unfounded, like, but there's actually been a lot of evidence for it. Not solid evidence, mind, but I was watching The Little Mermaid and The Lion King recently for a podcast I've been writing, and it turns out there's a lot of reference to the moon in them. Usually a transition between scenes that places something within the body of the moon. Perhaps it's a prison, or maybe it's actually an egg. That might sound far-fetched, but I've spent enough time down rabbit holes on YouTube and Google and just generally just looking for weird stuff online. And I know that people, both alive and dead, that have believed there is something living inside the moon. There's all that stuff about the dark side of the moon and that, but what if the dark side of the moon is actually just the inside of the moon? It would be pretty dark. What if the moon was hollow like an egg or a prison? I don't think it's that hard to believe, to be honest. Like, recently, I haven't been able to get this idea out of my head. Like, what if the sky is like skin, and the stars themselves are hair follicles? Because I think hair is reasonably translucent, so light would be able to pass through to a degree. But then I argue with myself, thinking that maybe the stars are actually just one big thing and it's obscured by the darkness. You know, what else would do that though? Hair? If hair was dense enough, it could block out light. So what if the stars are bits of light breaking through the dense hair of space, as we call it? Like, what if we're just living on some form of dog and we're nothing more than fleas or parasites, you know? And we see it as the Earth because someone's told us it's this, but really, if we was to find out we just live on another fucking living organism, then it'd blow our minds. Dense hair would be really hard to move through, just like space is. You'd be breathing it all in and all. If you've been spooning a person with long hair and you get air in your mouth, it's fucking hanging, mate. So you choke on it, and you choke if you go into space, so we're told. So I reckon I'll pop this in my little notebook and we'll discuss this at another time. And fucking vegans, mate. I've annoyed myself now by giving them the time. Another thing that pisses me off about them is the fact they seem to have very little in the way of creativity, or at least the marketing teams behind vegan products have no creativity at all. Like fucking meat-free meatballs. I know it sounds fucking, probably everyone's fucking said this before, but they took the time and effort to create something completely new, a new product for a new market. Even if it was, the people that made it for vegetarians or something, they called them meat-free meatballs. Just off the top of my head, they could have fucking called them meatless balls. That's better, immediately better than meat-free meatballs, because that's just a ball, innit? You don't know what's in there. You still don't know what's in there with meatless balls, but it's still just two words. It flows better. It rolls off the tongue a little bit better. Or you could go on full on original with something like fucking hell, put myself on the spot there. I mean, I can see why they struggle with it, innit? But Crackle Tuffs, Schwippers, fucking spaghetti and Schwippers for tea tonight, lad. And milk too. They make milk that's not milk. It's fucking ground up nuts, and that they still call it milk. I don't get how they're allowed. I don't get how that makes sense, because there's trading standards things, isn't there? If you say something, it has to be that thing. So really, what is milk? Milk's supposed to be a liquid secreted by a mammal, but these are things that have been made from almonds. So it's almond juice. It's nut juice. It's nut water. Or almond secretions, which nut secretions. I'd taste the swig of almond secretions just to see like what's that like. But almond milk is just a bit too far for me. How would you trust it, mate? You can't trust it because you can't. Clearly, you can't milk an almond, but you could get oil secretions or something, some form of secretion somehow out of an almond. I assume under chemicals or under heat, pressure. I don't know, but why would anyone want to just encourage someone to just talk utter nonsense like that, though? Like changing or stretching the meanings of words to mean new things. I don't get why that's being encouraged, mate. Why are they saying, oh, this word means this and it's always meant this, but let's change what that word means. Now it's the same word, but it means something completely different, just to fucking make it so that young people and old people can't talk to each other, so that they can't swap information, and so the old people can't pass down wisdom, and when they do, it's going to get misinterpreted or just looked at as if going, You don't know what you're on about, mate. Why would I listen to you? You're fucking 85. I'm 21. Why would I listen to you? Which is a fucking stupid mistake to make anyway. I'll listen to someone who's fucking 80 odd over someone who's 20 any day. It just blows me mind, man. Like, how often do you really hear of a new thing with a new name? I reckon the last time something pretending to be a product that it isn't received an actual original name was margarine. Because they didn't call it butterless butter. They just called it margarine. Now, there's probably a fucking good story behind why they called it margarine. I'm not going to go into that. I'm not interested, but I just think it's good. Margarine, albeit, it don't really taste great. It's not as good as butter. And it is butterless butter to a degree. It's a spreadable liquid. Like a almost solid spreadable liquid, I guess. But it's called margarine. It's not called butterless butter. This is a fucking weird hill to die on. Tinnitus. Tinnitus is a good word. That's an example of naming something. It's clearly not onomatopoeic, because if it was onomatopoeic, it'd be called earache or something along those lines. It'd be something like that, wouldn't it? I wouldn't have a clue what it was unless someone told me what tinnitus was. I wouldn't. No one would. No one would know what that is. It's a good word. It's been made up. We've assigned a thing to it. I know all words are like that, and this is a bit fucking, a stupid thing to say, but this word means that because we've said that. But they don't go saying, and he's got a bit of tinnitus because some lad's fucking hearing bells in his head over there, or the fucking, whatever the noise is, some like noise going on in the background. But they don't also then say, do you want a tinnitus, lad? There could be a tin of tuss, but I don't know what a tuss is, but it might be a colloquialism somewhere. But it's not used, is it? It's not also a cake. It's the idea of synonyms, mate. It just seems lazy for speakers, really.
This infomercial is brought to you by The World Around You. Introducing the new Go Fuck Yourself box. Your self-love box may include things I've made from skin, like trolls or chicken McNuggets, deer antlers, books I've wrote, like Uneducated Guesses, staplers made from mice, video game memorabilia, lizard heads, manimals, drums made from skin, magnetic mice that can also be worn as your magnetic mice earrings, butterfly wings, weird ornaments, faces I've made from organs, intestinal juice drawings, fossils, beetles, butterflies, and keyrings that I've made with bits of mouse, bits of rat, bits of lizard, like the legs, the ribcage, the tails. You bought everyone's Christmas presents early? Go fuck yourself. You've spent summer keeping your kids happy and healthy? Go fuck yourself. You exercise, eat well and earn a steady wage? Go fuck yourself. New ideas made with heart, both figuratively and literally. The eyes from chicks, hearts from chicks, and some old favourites too, such as mouse whistles, solar powered chickens, pebble pals, bobbleheads, and maybe you might even get a one-off item in there and all. So get your arse over to www.worldaroundyou.com and buy a big box of bad taxidermy from Jack Devaney at The World Around You. Tell your friends that they can get fucked too.
Man, getting a chance to work on a camel. I think it'd be fun to make things from it. I'd want some form of like robotic Grouch from Sesame Street living in the hump of it. But I reckon it'd be pretty hard, working on those humps. So I'd just be happy to use some the single humped camels, I love my job, but why work harder when you can work smarter? Why do two humps when you can have one? What I'd do with it is I'd bend its legs and then thin them out so they look like spiders' legs. It'd be like a four-legged spider, but proper spindly legs in it, crooked and all, like a spider's leg. Like that fucking massive spider at the, in Bug's Life, when the blue ant gets to what looks like a city and he sees that, I think it's like a Daddy Longlegs sort of character. What I'd put in the head is I'd bang a tin opener in its mouth, so you push its mouth down and it cuts the cans open for you. And I wouldn't mind if I could get some form of outline in the eye holes as well, so you could fire a laser beam or a light from the brain outwards in one eye, and it puts images on the wall like a projector. I'd like to put a miniature zoetrope though inside the other eye. One of them things where you see them in museums when they've got the single still images inside, and you spin it in one direction and it shows you a moving picture like a little film. Loads of little stills of me skinning that camel, but I'd try and do it in a way where it looks like I've peeled the skin off.
dangled the skin around a bit, messed with it, and then put the skin back on the camel. So maybe them images then in reverse. Oh, speaking of lasers, mate, I had this idea the other day that I'm obsessed with making long distance driving more fun and interesting. Maybe even competitive. Competitive though, not like just when you're speeding on the motorway and you think, I bet I can take him there, and you take him and they don't even know that you were trying to take him. Something where everyone can join in. The people that abide to the speed limits and people that don't, it don't really matter. Something that kids could play as well while you're driving. Imagine a sort of laser tag game, but for drivers and passengers as well, the cars. Like Takeshi's Castle's final game, the one where they're getting about in them little cars and they got the rice paper and the fucking firing water guns at each other. I'm thinking there could be regional leaderboards for it and that. Imagine just sitting at a roundabout entrance waiting to go in and just shooting lasers at the cars that go by from something that you clip onto your steering wheel. So it's still safe and you've got both hands on your steering wheel and that. And you're aiming it just off the front of your car. Or you could choose maybe to fire from the right headlight or the left headlight, depending on which hand's on your steering wheel or where it is you're shooting for. And it'd be a way to get neighbours talking to each other, mate. Like you could be like, have you seen number 45's doing well, aren't they? They've got 3 cars there. They're all tying up all the scores together. He's on 5,006 most months, on average. She's on 412, which isn't great. But when they take the kids on holiday every other weekend, because obviously they've got 3 cars, they're doing quite well. They've probably got a caravan somewhere in maybe mid Wales, maybe not North Wales. They might have a bit too much money for a caravan site in North Wales, but maybe mid Wales, probably not enough money for South Wales, but mid Wales-ish. And they're doing quite well. You get talking about, and you get to know your neighbours as well. Obviously, as well, it's good for criminals though and all, innit, I guess, because the criminals get to know your journeys, how long you're out for. So there'd have to be some way of hiding all of the statistics, just have scores, I guess. But anyway, I've not even told you any idea yet. I'm getting fucking well ahead of myself here. Basically, the premise is you shoot other cars with a laser beam from inside your car. But the leaderboards could be for the miles driven that day, or people that took a similar journey to you. So you get a little message in the night, and you get home. On a similar journey to you, Dave from Forterfield Road scored 1,500. Would you like to send them your score as a challenge? Something like that, but in that posh computer voice. Then you could have local rivals, mate, like, fuck yeah, fucking hate Terry and Tina from number 18, they're doing me fucking head in. Every week they beat me. They just go out. When they see that I'm ahead of them, they go out for a little drive and they're up and down the M5 constantly, just shooting everything and everyone. I don't have the time for it. I work. They don't work. They're just driving around and shooting these other cars. It's lucky that they've not crashed, Imagine the petrol they're wasting just to be a dick to me. You don't have to take it to heart and that, but I'm trying to sell it to you. You could sell it as a marketing opportunity to small businesses, innit? So they could sign their cars up, or the delivery vans, or the shop fronts, and they could be worth extra points, or give a bonus like a limited time double point thing, or a cloaking device that makes you invincible for a while. So like the gold star in Mario Kart kind of thing. And I'm sure the government would be all over this. It's like a new type of tracking device, isn't it? Those augmented reality games like Pokemon Go and that. They're all right for tracking us and selling our information, but imagine if they could know where every single car is going and where it's left from, like the location it left from. And it'd be a good idea as well. They could see where it's busy and where it does need more car parks. The government would love it, mate. They'd love it. And I can't be the only one who pretends the dirt on their car windscreen is already a gun that shoots other cars or melts trees down. It depends on my mood. Sometimes sometimes it can only cut through natural things. Sometimes it can only cut through man-made things. Obviously, that means it cuts through the car, but not the people inside. I'm not a psychopath, I'm not mental. I think you could use this as a reason or an excuse to ban cycling. It's just become too dangerous for them. Everyone would be sort of into this game too much. And obviously, cyclists would have to be worth more points, because I would argue that if you run a cyclist over in real life, it shouldn't be worth more points on your license. If anything, it should be worth half. I'm not a big fan of cyclists, innit? I think. Well, I know it's going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think it should be illegal for anyone over the age of 17 in the UK to be in charge of a bicycle. They're bad for the economy, and the more avid the cyclists, the worse they are for the environment as well. It baffles me how people look at cyclists and think, oh, they're brilliant, look at them saving the world. They're not saving the world, mate. They're crippling the country. They get in the way. Most of them are fucking arseholes. They just want to argue with whoever's nearby in a car because they're all high and mighty. They're partaking in tax avoidance as well, if you look at it from a certain way. If you're not allowed to drive a car that's full of red diesel because you haven't paid tax to be able to drive your car on the road, in that sense, with, you know, or you pay tax on your petrol, which gives you an allowance to sort of drive around freely with your car, then if you're not paying any form of tax on your bicycle regularly, then you shouldn't be allowed to ride that either. That's pretty much the same issue. You're still going, potentially, for most people, just as far as what you would normally go in a car. And I would even argue that you would go the same distance in a car, potentially, using red diesel as you would on a bicycle. So they're both just as bad as each other, mate. I think we could combine both of them, though, innit? So if we made a separate leaderboard that was just for how many times a cyclist had been, quote unquote, hit by a car that was passing him, not like fucking knocking him off and sending him to hospital, nothing so vicious as that, just literally just tapping him with this laser beam. You might be able to shame the cyclists, so you could be like, oh, mate, this cyclist got beaten today. He's the worst cyclist in Manchester. He's the worst cyclist in you could make it even more specific. He's the worst cyclist in Fallowfield, mate, because he's been hit by 4,000 different guys today with these infrared beams on, still don't know what you would call it. I haven't got a name for it, like Cartig. You could shame the cyclists because clearly most of them are smug anyway, and they've got these egos that clearly need to be fucking stroked, because that's why most of them will ride a bike anyway, innit, really? Because if you're over the age of 17 and you ride a bicycle, then why haven't you got a car? Why haven't you bought a car? Why aren't you helping the country? Why are you being like this? It's just unnecessary. Yeah, you're exercising. Just work out at home for free using your own body weight or something like push-ups and sit-ups and that. I would recommend joining a gym, because then it's putting more money into the local economy. You're not putting money into the economy by riding a bicycle. You're doing it maybe once, twice every few years. Imagine how successful the velodrome business had become if it was illegal for cyclists to be on the road. If you could shame them all into not being on the road because they don't want to be seen, and we just make it a social faux pas, a cultural faux pas to be associated as a cyclist or with a cyclist. So instead of having to go at people that smoke or drink too much or do drugs or whatever, aim all of that. So instead of like the war on terror or the war on drugs, or what's going to be like the war on fat now, or the war on obesity is what I think they're starting now. Imagine how, if you could put all of that shame and guilt onto cyclists, I don't know what you would call it, the war on cyclists, the war on bikes, the war on, there's got to be like a punchy thing that you could have for it. The war on wheels, maybe. The war on gays, gays of war. You could call it gays of war, mate. I mean, there might be a copyright infringement there, but gays of war would be pretty good. That would get everyone looking at the papers again, wouldn't it? Buying a newspaper. Ooh, what's this? Gays of war. What's going on? Oh shit, we hate cyclists now. So okay, so that's sounding, because if we all hate the cyclists, that's fine, because cyclists can be men and women. They can be any race and creed. So they could be black, white, brown, whatever the delineation of colour you want to describe someone as. They can be fat, unlikely. They can be muscular. They could be tall. They could be short. They could be skinny. They can be literally anyone. That would be a fucking brilliant way to eradicate sexism, racism, ableism, because you've got different types of bicycles. They might not be a bicycle, they might be a tricycle or something else, but it's still a pedal-powered mode of transport, which they're not paying for any fuel on. The disabled person could be using it. And then we can hate them all alike. And we can say, no. It's not because you're crippled with saggy tits and I don't like your pasty skin, Dave. You know, you Dave with your saggy pasty tits. It's not because of all that, mate. It's not because you're fat or crippled, or you walk weird, or because you smell because you're very sweaty, or it's not because you're ginger, Dave. It's honestly, mate, it's purely because you're a cyclist. All that other stuff that merely describes. I'm not bothered by your appearance. I just don't like the fact that you ride a bike, mate. I can't stand you. And that's fine, isn't it, then? Because you're not picking on them for something like that. So, fuck cyclists, mate. Let's all hate cyclists. You could have a little play on cycle paths, couldn't you? Because you could have, stamp out the cycle paths in your area. It could be like a picture of sort of Norman Bates with bike tyres for eyes or something. But back to me, so you've shamed them all into doing it as a sport in a velodrome. So that's good, because now it's helping the economy slowly but surely. maybe make it into a televised sport. I don't know. You could popularise it with gambling, new regional teams as well. So you could brand the tight fitting clothes even more specifically to a local area, like you do with football clubs and rugby clubs. Joe Bloggs, the cyclist, or should we have Big Titty David, like we mentioned before, Ginger Big Titty Dave. You could buy something that makes it look like you've got saggy tits underneath your lycra, mate. Anything, just something fancy. And speaking of having the tight fitting clothes, this would make it into a sport that both men and women could watch together. So in cycling, they're still wearing all these tight clothes, and everyone can have a good perv at the competitors in it. And there could be different weight categories and all to keep it fair. So you say you've got a larger lady or just a thin lady with big boobs. They're not at a disadvantage against actual athletes and skinnier athletes. They'd be put against other women with thin bodies and big boobs, or larger women with big breasts, or fat men against fat men, and skinny guys against skinny guys. Something for everyone, and you can flip through it on the telly, and you'd have categories like you do on a porn site. It'd be like softcore porn for the masses, and you can gamble on it live. This is genius, mate. Why is no one onto this? It's a properly, truly inclusive sport, unlike, the fucking very elitist rugby or football. Like, rugby only goes for muscular middle-class men, predominantly. I mean, football started to open up to women, but it's still all skinny working-class people. So this is a sport that could bring everyone together, because it wouldn't matter what your sort of upbringing was. Most people have a bicycle at some point in their life, and most people can easily learn to ride a bike. So why could you not race against other people? It'd keep it fair. I don't like the idea that sportsmen and sports personalities, sports women, whatever you want to, whatever the right term is for them, anyone can ride a bike, innit? So most people can ride a bike, or a bike of some description. So anyone can join in. I don't like watching. Where's the fun in watching someone do something that they've fucking practiced for years? It's not fun. I'd rather watch someone who's never done it before, or they don't take it too seriously. They're doing it for fun and having a laugh. That's what sport should be. But it's not. You'd still make your money out of the gambling, and then you pay less money to the sports people. They just get a prize kitty. Whoever wins gets paid well. And then instead of training every week and doing all that, they fucking still work a job, or they do something else, Not all of their time going into that is ridiculous. I just find sports boring generally, but like I say, you're just watching people work. You wouldn't go into a supermarket and start cheering on the shelf stackers, would you? It don't make sense. You're not watching someone, he's got the mayonnaise. It's not from the right to the left. Left hand back to the right hand. It's on the shelf. He twists it. It's Hellman's. It never happens, mate. Why the fuck would that happen? It bores me. I'd rather watch like surgeons live on telly, mate. That's something that someone's practiced for years, but I could happily watch that, because that's fascinating as well. And they're potentially saving someone's life, albeit you should have a little 10-minute delay just in case they fuck it up and kill the guy. But still, that would be much more interesting. The Olympics should also be a random selection to allow for everybody to represent their country and to win the opportunity to advertise. God, what is it they advertise? Like breakfast cereals and fucking yogurts with. Yeah, I never watch them adverts and find it believable that 3-time gold-winning athlete eats a king-size Mullacana every morning for breakfast, dinner and tea. It's not believable. But bringing back Fat Dave, and I believe that Tigbity Dave also eats a shitload of yogurts. I also believe he probably eats cereal morning, noon and night and all. So I'm going to listen to Tigbity Dave when he's on the telly going, yes, pie, Frosted Flakes. I'm an athlete and I'm a cyclist. I haven't cycled for the past 3 weeks, but I've just been eating these Frosted Flakes. And I'll look at that and I'll go, you know what, they must be good, because he's clearly piling them away. And I'd buy some, mate. Going back to the Olympics bit, how that should be, the Olympics should be like jury duty, innit? That's what I think. I think the Olympics should be a random selection of people to allow for everybody the chance to represent their country. It makes most sense, doesn't it? And I get jury duty, that's got to be random for a reason, but surely the ability to be able to use evidence and not emotion, and to think objectively, and to not be swayed by emotive language, to not be swayed by that. That should be a professional thing, man. That should be something people are taught and learn how to use, and a skill that can be and should be developed over time, possibly even perfected before it's used. Now, if they televised what happens in courts instead of what happens on football fields and that, I reckon the court system and the legal system would probably be a lot better for people generally across the board anyway, because there'd be people watching all the time, because sometimes it'd be interesting, wouldn't it, to see if, this nutters on the telly who kept fucking driving round knocking over cyclists because he couldn't afford the laser cannons to attach to his steering wheel. So he just thought, fuck it, I'll just open the door every now and then and knock out a biker. So he's in court, everyone's watching that, mate. And you could gamble on that as well. Why can't we gamble on court cases? It should be... I don't get why you can only gamble on sports and like maybe soap operas or something, Let's have gambling everywhere. That would benefit the country and the economy, obviously, but I don't see how it benefits a country to have someone that can run around in a circle without stopping, or reliably be able to throw a fucking heavy metal disc a few 100 metres, or 100 metres, maybe 100 metres is impressive for a discus, I don't know. Like I say, I'm not into it. But how does that benefit anything, mate? Whereas having truly professional jurors, that'd benefit each and every country a hell of a lot more. It would also benefit people that are going to court who maybe can't afford a decent lawyer or solicitor or whatever, They'd stand a fighting chance, mate. Like, I remember having to go to court a few years ago when some old bloke got wound up with me and my dad when we were fishing, and we hadn't done anything. I know that's only my word here, and I'm obviously going to say we hadn't done anything, but we were just minding our own business. And he came out of his house and started threatening to kick my dad into the canal. We never found out why, innit? But my dad isn't a well guy, so it was worrying to see this happen. Very confusing, because this guy had just gone fucking mental. He's just kicking his maggots into the water, trying to boot my dad's chair, trying to push him into the river, the canal. And as I said at the top of the show, me and my dad can't really swim, and there's undercurrents in the canal that you want to be careful of, isn't there? So it was a worrying day, a weird day. He just really wanted to fucking make my dad go for a dunk, possibly kill him, drown him, fuck knows. Well, we've come full circle now, innit? I've managed to ramble my way back to the top of the show. Could that old man actually be the pusher? Did my dad have a close call? Have I looked the pusher in the eye? More than likely not, but we were fishing on a canal near Manchester city centre. A man took umbrage with it to such a point that he wanted to kill my old man. It's uncanny, mate. I always imagined that there'd be a heavy-set person, the pusher, and this guy did have some sizable breasts on him, so we'll call him Dave, We'll call him Tigbiddy Dave. Tigbiddy Dave is the pusher, boys and girls, potentially. Personally, I think it just adds credence to my theory at the start about the pusher being a government-led initiative to punish the fishermen of the Northwest, though. It all fits together, doesn't it, so smoothly. Now, on that note, talking about Tigbiddy Dave, for the sake of this, let's imagine an overweight, grey-haired, balding Mancunian whipping a nip out.